They laughed before he even finished his sentence, the sound sharp and careless, echoing across the concrete yard like metal striking stone. The ragged man stood there unmoving, his coat too thin for the cold, his shoes worn down to the soles, his beard untrimmed and silvered by years of dust and hardship. When he said he would take 5 Mercedes trucks, not 1, not 2, but 5, the laughter grew louder, crueler, and final. In that moment, everyone present believed they were witnessing a joke. None of them understood they were standing at the beginning of the biggest mistake of their lives. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a second to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that life can change when we least expect it, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The yard belonged to a struggling logistics company on the outskirts of the city, a place where ambition had once thrived but now barely breathed. Rows of idle trucks sat like tired animals under a gray sky, their paint faded, their engines silent. Debt had been piling up for months, contracts had been lost, and desperation hung in the air thicker than exhaust fumes. The managers stood together, coats neat, shoes polished, eyes sharp with calculation and worry. They were waiting for buyers, any buyers, who might take these trucks off their hands and give the company a chance to survive. When the ragged man approached, they barely noticed him at first. He looked like someone who wandered in by mistake, someone who belonged to the streets, not a business yard filled with million-rupee machines. He had arrived quietly, walking past the security gate without hesitation, as if he knew exactly where he was going. His back was straight despite the years pressing down on him, and his eyes, though tired, held a strange steadiness. He examined the trucks slowly, running, his hand along rusted edges, kneeling to inspect tires, peering into cabins with the focus of someone who understood weight, distance, and wear. The managers whispered among themselves, annoyed but amused. To them, he was entertainment, a distraction from their growing panic. When he finally stated his intention to take 5 Mercedes trucks, the laughter burst out before any thought could stop it. What none of them knew was that the man's ragged appearance was not a reflection of his past, but of his present struggle. Years ago, he had been one of the most respected transport contractors in the region. He had built his business from nothing, hauling goods across deserts and mountains, learning every road by heart. He knew how engines breathed, how drivers thought, how timing could make or break a delivery. Then came a single year of disasters. A flood destroyed half his fleet. A trusted partner vanished with company funds. A government contract was canceled overnight due to politics he had no power over. Debts swallowed him whole, and pride kept him from asking for help. Slowly, painfully, everything collapsed. By the time he ended up sleeping in cheap shelters and wearing donated clothes, the world had already decided who he was. People saw dirt and assumed failure. They saw silence and assumed weakness, yet inside him, the same sharp mind remained, measuring risks, calculating routes, refusing to die. He spent nights listening to the hum of traffic, imagining engines moving, imagining a chance that might never come. And then he heard about this company, desperate to sell trucks quickly, willing to accept unconventional buyers if money came fast enough. The managers eventually stopped laughing, not because they took him seriously, but because boredom set in. They asked for proof, already certain none would come. That was when the air shifted. The man calmly produced documents, worn and folded but legitimate. He had secured backing from a quiet investment group. People who did not care about appearances, only results. The funding was conditional, risky, and depended entirely on his ability to move fast and rebuild trust. 5 trucks were the minimum required to restart operations on a scale that mattered. 1 or 2 would not be enough. He needed 5, or there was no point at all. The smiles on the managers' faces faded, replaced by confusion, then irritation. They tried to regain control, dismissing him, questioning his credibility, delaying paperwork. Pride began to mix with fear. The idea that this man, whom they had mocked seconds earlier, might actually walk away with valuable assets unsettled them deeply. Still, desperation forced their hands. They needed the sale. Contracts were bleeding money, employees were restless, and banks were circling like vultures. Reluctantly, they agreed. When the deal was finalized, the yard felt different. The laughter was gone, replaced by silence and the distant sound of engines starting for the first time in weeks. The ragged man stood watching as the trucks were prepared, his expression unreadable. He did not celebrate, he did not gloat, he simply nodded, as if confirming what he had already known all along. For him, this was not a victory, it was a responsibility. The following months tested him harder than anything before. He worked longer hours than his drivers, sleeping in the trucks, checking routes personally, negotiating fuel costs late into the night. He hired people others overlooked, men and women with broken histories but strong work ethics. He paid them on time, even when it meant skipping meals himself. Slowly, word spread. Deliveries arrived early. Goods arrived intact. Promises were kept. Clients who had once written him off began to return, cautiously at first, then with confidence. The same company that had laughed watched from a distance as rumors reached them. 5 trucks became 7, 7 became 10. The ragged man cleaned up, not to impress anyone, but because he finally could. Yet he never forgot how it felt to be dismissed. When he passed by his former peers at industry events, he greeted them with quiet respect, offering help where he could. Some accepted, humbled. Others looked away, unable to face the memory of their laughter. Years later, the logistics yard looked nothing like it once had. The trucks were new, the buildings restored, the company thriving under his leadership. He invested in training programs, supported struggling drivers, and created emergency funds for families hit by accidents or illness. Success had not hardened him, it had softened him, taught him the value of dignity and patience. People often asked how he did it, how he rose from nothing. He always gave the same answer, that he never rose from nothing, because even at his lowest, he still had knowledge, resilience, and the will to keep moving forward. As this story draws closer to its end, if it has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and stay connected with the channel. Stories like this exist because people like you believe they matter. Before the final moments, there is one special request. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel, whether it is hope, strength, humility, or faith. Your words might inspire someone else reading them. The biggest mistake was never laughing at a man in ragged clothes. The biggest mistake was assuming that success looks a certain way, that failure is permanent, and that dignity disappears with hardship. That day in the yard, the laughter echoed loudly, but it faded quickly. What remained was the sound of engines starting, of lives changing direction, of second chances moving forward on open roads. And long after the laughter was forgotten, the lesson endured, that the measure of a person is not found in what they wear, but in what they carry inside when everything else is stripped away.